Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy. And we're looking at the 2019 Chrysler Pacifica minivan, and there's something unusual and unique about this particular Chrysler Pacifica minivan. Can you spot it? I'll move a little bit closer so that you can spot it easily. There is the door for the plug-in hybrid connection. So what we've got here is a full-size minivan that is a hybrid minivan that's also a plug-in minivan. This is unique right now in the market. The Pacifica is a lot like the original Prius in that way. When it came out back in '98, it was the only hybrid vehicle you could buy in the United States. Well, right now, this is the only hybrid minivan that you can buy, and the only plug-in hybrid minivan as well. Now the question is, does it make any sense? Why is Chrysler selling it, and should you consider buying it? Well, here's the scoop on that from my point of view. It's considerably more expensive than the regular Pacifica and the non-hybrid other minivans that you can still buy, which basically are the Toyota Sienna and the Honda Odyssey. They don't offer any type of hybrid drivetrain in those vehicles, plug-in or otherwise. You're going to pay about $8,000 more to get this thing versus an equivalent non-hybrid version of the Pacifica or comparably equipped versions of the Sienna or the Odyssey. You will, on the upside, be able to go about 33 miles on a full charge, and you can charge it up without having to drive it. That's the key thing to understand about these plug-in hybrids. In a conventional hybrid, the IC engine serves as a kind of onboard generator, and for the most part, in most of those vehicles, also provides the primary source of motive power. It's the thing that actually moves you most of the time, with the battery and the motor generally providing supplementary assist, except at very low speeds. Now, with the plug-in, if you plug it in externally without burning any gas at home using a standard wall outlet, you can drive down the road for 30-something miles without using any gas at all, which is pretty cool. But, you know, the counterpoint to that is the $9,000 that you just spent to get that hybrid plug-in capability. And you do the math. Gas is about $2.50 right now in my area. How much gas can you buy with $8,000 or $9,000? And what's your driving like? So it's a tough call. It's hard to understand the economics of it, but I guess it depends on your situation. So anyway, that begs the question, why is Chrysler offering it? I think chiefly for two reasons. One, Chrysler doesn't have a lot in its product portfolio right now. There's the Pacifica and there's the 300, and that's it. They've got two vehicles right now in showrooms to offer buyers. It's not a lot of choice. So by offering this plug-in version of the Pacifica van, they can offer something that nobody else offers right now, and I think that that's a reasonable strategy. If you want to sell something that other people aren't selling. The other reason I think has to do with CAFE, and for those of you who follow my rants, you'll know what that is already, but for those who don't, CAFE is an acronym, and it stands for Corporate Average Fuel Economy. And it refers to the federal regulation that requires that every car company's fleet of vehicles, that is, all the vehicles that they sell, achieve a combined average of such and such miles per gallon. Right now it's about 35 miles per gallon on average. And Chrysler only has a big sedan in its lineup, with the smallest engine in that big sedan being a V6 and the optional engine being a V8. So the mileage on that thing is not going to be close to averaging 35 miles per gallon, and that's important because if you don't hit the average that the government decrees, you get hit with these gas guzzler fines, which of course the car company then adds to the sticker price and passes on to you, the buyer. So if you put a hybrid minivan into your lineup that gets, say, 10 miles per gallon better than on average the regular minivan, well, that's going to improve your math, your numbers, your averages, and that, I think, is the other reason why this vehicle has been put into the lineup by Chrysler. And final thought before I turn off the recorder here. When you go shopping for a plug-in hybrid, you'll see something on the window sticker that I think is really confusing. It's called EMPGs. Let me see if I can actually show you the window sticker. Might still have it. they're coming to pick up this thing today. Oh, and by the way, here's the interior. It's got a hybrid specific gauge cluster, as you'd expect. That shows you your power, shows you your state of charge, and of course, I haven't turned it on, but on the Uconnect touchscreen, you can watch the power flow. Keep track of charging and all the other things that hybrids are famous for doing. But let's see here. Bear with me. I've got to use my other hand here to see if I can pull this out. Okay, so here we go. Here's the mileage. You'll see it says 84 EMPG. Okay, that is confusing because it implies that this thing is capable of getting 84 miles per gallon, and it's not. At least I don't think that it is. EMPG is essentially some sort of averaging of the mileage that the thing is capable of delivering, factoring in both fully electric powered, no gas engine operation at all, and operating on the gas engine some of the time and all of the time. It's very fuzzy, very hazy. What I can tell you from personal experience, having driven this thing now for a week, is that I averaged about 30 miles per gallon. Now, that is probably less than most people will average, and the reason that I say that is because my trip into town is about 30-something miles one way, so even if I start out on a fully charged battery, I'm going to start burning some gas before I get to my destination, and by the time I get there, I'm back to burning gas, and I'm probably going to be burning mostly gas most of the way home, unless I can stop in town, find a place to plug in, and stay there for a few hours, which in my case isn't going to happen. So that's why I average about 30 miles per gallon in this thing, which is pretty good for a big minivan. But you might do better. If you have a shorter trip, let's say that you drive 10 or 15 miles into work and it's mostly stop and go driving, at which the hybrids are best, and you get to your office and your office has a plug and you can plug in so that while you're working the battery recharges and then you go home. Again, mostly on electricity, you might be able to get significantly more than 30. You might end up getting 40 or something miles per gallon. I don't know, but it's very confusing, and I strongly advise anybody who's considering any plug-in to actually test drive the thing yourself. Take it out and drive it the way you normally drive it, on the routes that you normally drive, the distances that you normally drive, and keep close track of how much fuel you're using before you come to a decision to buy it. The technology is very interesting. It's cool to be able to operate entirely on electric power rather than gas. It's quiet. This thing actually, in my opinion, drives more pleasantly than the regular Pacifica. Other people who've reviewed this car will agree with me. One of the reasons for that is that it's quieter, and it's not just because of the electric powertrain, it's also because of the CVT transmission that Chrysler uses in this rather than the 9-speed, which is a little bit herky-jerky, frankly. But anyway, drive it before you buy it. I think you'll like it. There's nothing objectionable about it. For example, one thing I'll point out, in the typical hybrid, you lose generally, converted hybrid, you generally lose a lot of cargo capacity because of the batteries. The batteries do have to go somewhere, and generally in a vehicle that's converted into a hybrid, anything except the Prius basically, they have to find a place to put those batteries, and that usually eats up a lot of the cargo space, whether it's in the trunk or the cargo area, depending on the configuration of the vehicle. In this case, this platform, the minivan platform, is huge. It's a big vehicle, and they can lay the batteries out on the floor and put them in places where they don't intrude into the passenger cabin and take up a lot of space. In fact, they take up no space. If you look at the specs of this thing in terms of interior capacity, it has the same capacity as the regular Pacifica minivan, both behind the third row of seats and with all the seats down, so you don't lose any of that. The chief drawback to this thing is the significant price uptick up front to buy it relative to the cost of gas today. A vehicle like this, and this goes across the board for all hybrids and for electric cars too, until gas prices, in my opinion, double, and they may never double, making the math work out on this is a lot more difficult than it was 4 or 5 years ago, back when gas was pushing $4 a gallon in some places. But now with gas being $2.50-ish a gallon, I don't know. Anyway, you should drive it and figure out whether it makes any sense for you before you buy it. I will have an in-depth written review up at epautos.com, hopefully later today. And there's also, you can go on the site right now and you can read about the creepy Real ID Act, which is supposed to be fully implemented using the government's terminology not too long from now in October of 2020. And if you don't get your Real ID, which is effectively an internal passport, you won't be able to fly within the United States, not outside of the United States. It's effectively an internal passport. You can't fly anymore domestically without the Real ID. And you'll be debarred from entering various federal secure facilities if you don't have the Real ID. Anyway, there's more about that at epautos.com. I hope you'll stop by and check it out. Leave your comments. Thanks for viewing, and we will catch up with you again soon.